Hello everyone, welcome to AWS Data Engineering Training Program. In today's class, we are starting with database services. So there are many database services available with AWS for different type of use case. If you just want to analyze the data, if you want to edit the data as well, if your data is not structured, there can be many different type of use case. And for different type of use case, we have different type of database services available with AWS. In today's class, we will be exploring mainly two things, Athena and Redshift. And Athena is nothing but part of Glue only. So the Glue also we will be covering today. So let's start the class with the agenda. So overview of Athena, overview of crawlers, overview of Glue data catalog, set up Athena, execute SQL queries in Athena, overview of Redshift, create Redshift cluster, execute SQL queries in Redshift. All these things we will be exploring practically so that you are more clear on that. So starting with overview of Athena. So it is an interactive query service that makes it easy to analyze data directly in Amazon S3. Let me split this line into multiple parts. So if you think about database, the very first thing in which comes in your mind is like tables. Data is stored in tables and we can execute some queries, right? But Athena is not like that. In Athena, there is no, I would say, Athena does not hold any data. Data is still stored in S3 in CSV format or TSV format or a Parquet format, or there are many more file formats are available. Data will be still there in S3. We will not be bringing the data to Athena, will not do that. Athena is smart enough. It is capable of executing the query directly on the data stored in S3. That's quite interesting thing. So in previous example, we talked about a lambda function. I hope you remember, and we added a trigger as well. That means as and when a file is coming into S3 on a specified folder, your lambda is automatically triggering, right? Lambda can do some processing, maybe basic type of cleansing, like it can check it out how many columns are there in each row, or is the first column is a numeric or not, or is anything missing in the data or not, or there can be something else it can check. And after checking whatever is the valid data, that it can store into a different folder in S3. That part we can take care from lambda function. But now, since we have filtered out the invalid rows and now the valid data has been stored separately, if we want to do some analysis, some processing on top of that data, what should I do? Do I need to write a code? That's not required. Athena is smart enough to directly execute the query on that particular S3 file. I will show you shortly how to do that. It is serverless, zero infrastructure, and zero administration. Just like Lambda, in Lambda, I was worried only about like executing of my code. How to start a server, what capacity of the server is required, how to stop the server, that was completely taken care by AWS. Same thing is here. When Athena is executing the query on S3, depending upon your data, because S3 folder may contains terabytes of data, or S3 folder just contain few MB of data. So depending upon the data size, what capacity of the server is required, that AWS will automatically take care from their side. As a user, as a developer, I don't have to worry about that. Okay, easy to query, just use standard SQL. That means Athena does not have any separate query syntax. You don't need to learn something new. If you are aware about basic stuff like select star from table, order by this, where close, joining, and all that stuff, if you are aware about it, you are good. You can execute the query on Athena as well and pay only for the queries you run. Your S3 may contains lot of other folders, but we are not concerned about it. Only the query you are executing, or in other words, I would say the amount of data you will be scanning, you have to pay only for that. Okay, scales automatically executing queries in parallel. In case you are dealing large amount of data, and as I said, right behind the scene, it will automatically take care whether to launch multiple server or execute your queries in parallel. That Athena will automatically take care. You can use Athena to process logs, perform data analytics, and run interactive queries. Did you notice one thing? It's only for analysis. That means you cannot modify the data. It's not a database, first of all. Although we are saying again and again that SQL queries and you can execute queries in parallel, you can analyze the data, but still it is not a database. It's directly dealing with your files stored in S3. And I hope you remember, the file stored in S3 cannot be modified. You cannot open the file and add a new row or delete an existing row. That's not possible. You can upload the file. If you want to analyze, you can do that. If you don't want, I mean, if you want to delete the file, you can do that. But you have to delete the complete file. You cannot delete a specific word or specific line from the file. That's not possible at all. And that restriction applicable to Athena as well. That means Athena can only execute only the select queries, basically only select queries on your tables, on your data. You cannot modify anything. You cannot delete any row from the files and all. That's not possible. It's a different type of use case, I would say. Suppose you are getting credit card history, credit card statements for thousands of users, and you want to do some analytics on top of that. So definitely you don't want to make any modification, because transaction have already happened in past, transaction have already been captured, and there is no point of editing that. If someone purchased something on a particular date, particular time, particular amount, what's the point you are editing it? If you want to do some analysis on top of that, you are most welcome, you can do that, but there is no editing possible on that. Okay, I hope you are clear on the basics of I mean Athena. I am going back to our trial account and we'll do it practically. You will understand in more better way. So let me log in first. 874498. Okay, so before we start anything on Athena, let's prepare some data first, because without having data in S3 you cannot do anything. So what I will do is, first of all, I will open Glue here. Okay, I will explain what Glue is, what Athena is. Don't get confused. I'm opening Glue. Okay, I will duplicate this and will open Athena. Okay, and I will duplicate one more time and I will open S3. Okay, so we'll go step by step. The very first thing is I will create some folder or some upload some file so that we can play around that. So let's choose some bucket. My CLI bucket, my first bucket needs S3 static website. Let's use this one, second one. Okay, so you can see that there's a folder CSS. Let's forget about it. There is no use of CSS folder. I will rather create one more folder. Okay, and I would give something some name. I would say blue input data. Okay, I'm just giving some folder. Click on create folder, and inside this folder I will create another folder which holds my data. Even you can upload the file directly, that's possible. You can upload the files directly, but the thing is, sometime you may have multiple files for the same stuff. Suppose every day in the morning you are getting a new file, and all those files are related to one particular thing. Suppose sales data, marketing data, accounts data, anything, right? So to make it more convenient, you can create one more folder. So I will create one more folder, and let's do one thing. I would say employee. Okay, I would say employee, and that's all. Click on create folder. Now inside this folder, I will upload my file, whether it's a single or multiple files, because this folder is now dedicated for, you can say, okay, I think I have created within, I mean, I didn't create inside this. That's fine. We can move it. Select this. Select the employee folder and action and move. So which bucket you want to move? Same bucket only. Uh, inside this folder. Okay. So what I did is I created one folder like glue input data. Inside that I created another folder with employee, and inside that we can upload some file. So I will close this and go to glue input data. Okay, and click on employee. Give me a moment. Click on employee. So there is no data as of now here. I will click on upload. And previously we used some file, some sample data, something, and we will use the same file. But before that, we let's open that file so that we can understand. Like, okay, so I will open that file. That file is in my download sample.